Hello, everybody. Today in Afghanistan, in better times, it would have been celebrated as Liberation Day, a celebration of the day in 1989 when the 10 years of Russian occupation of Afghanistan ended and the Russian troops withdrew. During that period of occupation, 2 million people had died, 6 million people had been displaced, and the battle had been won eventually by the Mujahideen, a group of Muslim fighters and supported by others from the West, who joined together in spite of their religious differences to throw out the communists. But once they'd gone, then things began to change, and eventually the Taliban emerged as the leading group. They took over the country in 1994. And in 2001, Afghanistan was again invaded, this time by the United States in order to try and release them from the rule of the Taliban. It's a cyclic history, and it keeps on producing enormous struggles and poverty for the people of Afghanistan. John Simpson said he'd never seen, the BBC's foreign correspondent said he'd never seen a country so near the brink of collapse. And it's true that 95% of them, 95% of the population, are at starvation level. And if that was true of this country, it would mean that everywhere in this country, in the UK, was at starvation level except the populations of Manchester and Liverpool. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, the level of poverty. And it's because, in the case of the Russian invasion, it was a Cold War battle. The people of Afghanistan were not the issue. The Russians wanted a bulwark against the West, and the West supported the Mujahideen in trying to throw out the Russians. And then when the United States invaded again, and with the support of the UK and other countries, again, this was part of the battle to maintain control. It did produce greater freedom, undoubtedly, for the people of Afghanistan, but we only need to look at the papers to see where it ended up. So sad that a people who are great people with a wonderful cultural history have been used by other powers in this way, and it's a reminder of how we don't seem ever to learn. We go on making the same mistakes because we put political power, political influence above the needs of people. And that's exactly the dilemma that the nations of the West have got at the moment. Do they release the huge amounts of money that are rightly belong to the Afghan people and government, that are kept in Western banks? Do they release that for the use of the Taliban and in so doing apparently acknowledge their oppressive regime there? Or do they hold it back and allow the starvation levels that are currently existing to continue? A terrible dilemma, but for my money, people should come first. And I don't know what the Afghan people would say, but I'm imagining that the levels of starvation that have been reached there, they would rather suffer the Taliban rule and have some food than go on the way they are. I hope the governments will release some of that money. But meanwhile, we can do our bit. The Disasters Emergency Committee had an appeal for Afghanistan recently, still open, and they do get their money to the people on the ground. And so I want to support them. But meanwhile, hope and pray with great sadness for the people of that country that one day there'll be another Liberation Day, but it'll be a day which has a more long-lasting effect than the last liberation from the Russian troops did.